and good morning from Montreal, Canada. My name is Pierre and welcome to Skyblue Aviation. Today I will be taking a flight from Montreal Trudeau Airport up to a northern town within the province of Quebec. As I am currently in the downtown area, I need to take the transit system to the airport. So for those of you who don't know, Montreal doesn't actually have any other public transport option than the bus to get to the airport right now, which is the one that I'm going to take. But they are building a tramway system which should be able to connect downtown directly to the airport in like 15 minutes. But the bus plus the metro is about an hour, and it's not the most practical, but that's what we have right now. We gotta wait for more developments to be made. In fact, the route that I am taking this morning takes me from Berry-UQAM station to Lionel-Groulx on the Azur Metro. Once arrived, I need to walk back up to the surface and take the cleverly named 747 bus to the airport, which runs about every 15 minutes. The route on this bus usually takes about 30 minutes, but this morning, the streets were empty and our bus arrived sooner than I realized. So as you can see by the airport behind me, I've just made it. It's currently 6:40, which means it took me an hour and 40 minutes to get here. It's about the average time. And we're going to be flying today on board a special airline actually. Right over here, you can see the regional gate. That's where usually the Dash8s go and park for loading and unloading passengers and cargo. And one of the airlines that goes there is called Air Creebec. And in case you don't know, Air Creebec is this regional airline that focuses on serving the Cree community, which is a community that lives up in the James Bay area, and it's actually owned by the natives. It's not owned by the government of Canada, it's not owned by a private company, it's actually owned by the government of the James Bay, so the Cree people, which is amazing. So now they have their own airline to serve their own people on their Dash8s. And that's where we're going to be flying today, up to Chapais, which is about an hour and 15 minutes flight. Let's go. As I've said, the airline is in fact owned by the Cree people. However, they are not exclusively settled in Quebec only, and quite a large portion of the population lives across the border in Ontario, which creates an interesting scenario. Air Quebec's route network is divided in two sections, without any link between them. As you can see, there is an Ontario network and a Quebec network, but no flight runs between the two. I don't know if this is common with other airlines, but I thought it was interesting to point out. Anyways, as we enter the terminal, we are reminded by this sign that only passengers are granted access to the terminal before being instantly met with a gel dispenser. After applying way too much gel once again, I wiped off the extra liquid on my coat before moving forward to the check-in desks. Air Creebec includes a free checked bag for up to 20 kilograms or 44 pounds. In addition to this, you may bring a carry-on luggage as well as handbag in the cabin for no additional cost. Quite generous for a regional airline. After printing out my ticket, it's time to head to security. Now normally, at this time in the morning, will be the leisure rush, but with the government of Canada suspending all non-essential direct flights to some destinations, the line was emptied of all vacationers headed to the white sandy beaches of Cuba. Conclusion: security took no longer than 2 minutes. So we made it to through security. Behind me you have a Sunwing 737. Unfortunately, it's not my flight. Mine is somewhere over there. And I just came here to see what kind of planes we got in front of us. I was surprised to find this Sunwing 737 considering the previously mentioned suspension of Caribbean flights, but after chatting with the crew next door, I learned that this was only a Guatemala charter to fly workers in for the Quebec harvest season. And after internally crying at the sight of these parked air transit planes, I decided it was time to grab breakfast. Yeah, I'm the type of guy that drowns his emotions in food. Anyways, thanks to Priority Pass, not a sponsor by the way, I was able to grab $37 worth of food at the price of, well, $400 per year. When traveling, I always like to take this black card around with me, as it allows for many little perks to make your airport experience better. I'm talking about lounges, showers, food, and even hotels. Seriously, if you travel often and you are not a Priority Pass member, then I don't know what you're waiting for. Yeah, all I wanted was a muffin and a coffee, but the sweet counter ladies basically bullied me into spending my entire $37, insisting that it would otherwise be a loss of money. They were not wrong, so I did take more than anticipated. Might as well say adieu to that summer body. The boarding time was soon approaching, so I made my way to the regional gates. As I arrived, I saw this Dash8 airplane pulling in, thinking it was my flight. However, I was fooled as my flight was late, and this aircraft was servicing passengers to Val d'Or, aka not my destination. So I sat down, wondering if my plane will ever show up, but just before worrying too much, Yankee Whiskey X-Ray showed up at gate 8. This 32 years old turboprop will be my ride for the hop across to Chapais. One thing I find interesting about Air Creebec's livery is that the airline's writing is really small, almost non-existent. However, the iconic orange stripes are enough to identify the owner of the plane very well. Before long, we were called for boarding. Air Creebec doesn't use jetway gates, so when you fly with them you are always guaranteed of walking to the plane, which is awesome for av geeks like you and me. Air Creebec uses the first come first serve method for seating, which means you cannot pre-select when check-in, so make sure you're first in line when boarding so you can choose the seat you want. However today, it didn't really matter if I was first or last since only 3 other passengers boarded the plane. Chapais is definitely not the country's busiest route. The first thing you'll notice when looking around the seat is that it's pretty classy. Aside from the broken recline, everything works just fine. Before long, we were ready for pushback. Chapais is a small mining town of 1,200 citizens located 486 kilometers, or 301 miles, to the north of Montreal. This might not be the Arctic, but it is far enough to experience harsh winters and raw nature around. Now, as far as regional in-flight entertainment goes, well, I pretty much only had a safety cot and a vomit bag to keep me busy. This is why I suggest you to bring your own entertainment on these flights, like a book or a TV show for example. No Wi-Fi is offered either. So as I faced the IAF lacking seat in front of me, I decided to kill a couple of minutes by paying a visit to the bathroom. As the aircraft is literally older than me and my little brother's age combined, it was unsurprisingly worn off. The lock didn't even work, so the lights didn't brighten. The sink didn't have running water, and the air vents were only for show. Fortunately though, the toilet still flushed. Now the issue with non-functioning toilets is that, well, you cannot really use them unless you're willing to risk someone opening the door on you. Yuck. In face of this threat, I just went back to my seat, enjoyed the scenery, while reading a book for the first time in 6 months. Usually this airline will serve a pre-packed meal, but using the sanitary crisis as a cost-cutting excuse, they weren't offering anything on this trip except a bottle of Esca water. Still appreciated, always useful if you want to wash your hands in a dysfunctional bathroom. As our little old Dash8 approached the remote strip of Chapais, we were met with this typical boreal scenery: lakes, pine trees, isolated roads, power lines seemingly going to nowhere, and although you cannot see it from this altitude, dozens of mosquitoes and flies the size of your face. But don't let that thought distract you from the undebatable beauty of this scenery. As we pulled onto the apron and inside the terminal, we were met with this comically small terminal with a comically small luggage belt. Seriously, it's adorably tiny. Now, just like any other respectable airport in the world, a group of taxi drivers was waiting at the exit. Funny though, how there are more taxi drivers than passengers. It was then not too hard for me to find my own private driver who offered me a deal of $65 for the 15 minutes ride to downtown Chapais. I am definitely paying way too much money, but I'd rather get ripped off than being stranded in the middle of a forest. When we pulled into my requested drop-off area, I noticed that my wallet was empty. Uh-oh. Fortunately though, the driver let me use the local ATM machine to withdraw liquid money. Not sure why they don't accept credit cards, but I won't question it. As I came back into the car and paid my fare, I confidently left towards the store while forgetting my luggage in the true Pierre style. I then got honked, walked back to the trunk, and took my belongings. This is what happens when I'm stressed about filming.
So as you can see, it's a pretty complete store, especially for a small town, which is important to be able to have access to food, I guess. And as you can see, the shelves are pretty stocked. So I don't think I'm gonna go hungry on this trip. Alright, so in the end, I didn't take anything because I just remembered that I have all of this free priority pass food, and I'm gonna eat that before it expires, and also so I don't waste any money, any food especially. So I'm gonna get to my residence for the next week, and it's not too far. It's actually right there, right across the street. The taxi ride cost me $65, but the taxi driver let me go for $60 because the machine wouldn't let me retrieve $65. So that was cool. Although $60 kind of expensive for like what, 10-15 minutes. But anyways, I'm just glad to be here. Glad that I've made it without damage, I guess. If I had to conclude Air Creebec, I'd say it's overpriced, to be honest. The bathroom didn't even work. The seat was broken. The aircraft was worn out. And I mean, I guess they kind of do achieve their goal of connecting the Cree communities with the world. But the issue is that their planes are super outdated, and it's really expensive. But at least there's a link, and that's the important part. Yeah.
So before concluding this video, I would like to point out that I paid a total of $606.20 for this round trip fare, which comes down to 62 cents per kilometer or 83 US cents per mile. That is definitely not the cheapest cents to kilometer ratio you can find out there, but as I said previously, this is an essential air service that mainly connects business passengers or members of the Cree communities whose tickets have been paid for by their employer. Overall, Air Creebec is a solid airline that succeeds in its goal. While their planes may be worn out and due for a serious makeover, they do connect the Cree communities with reliable air service to the outside world, and that's the important part. I hope you guys have enjoyed my video. Don't hesitate to let me know in the comments if you've flown this airline or this aircraft type before. And as always, feel free to subscribe for more content like this. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.